to Suits and Sneakers, a series featuring sage advice and candid conversations with seasoned leaders from diverse backgrounds and styles. I'm your host, Carrie Tuttle. With my guests, we deep dive into the areas of team engagement, motivation, and effective performance management. Get ready to be inspired and transform your approach to leadership. Please like, subscribe, or follow to be notified when episodes are released. Let's get started. My guest today is Paige Greenhough, Global Marketing Manager of Energy and Climate Change with Hatch. Hatch is a global engineering, project delivery, and professional services firm. Its group of companies have more than 10,000 staff and experience in over 150 countries. With over 14 years in the consulting and advisory industry, Paige's career arc stretches from telecom and government work to leading international campaigns on projects that shape communities and economies. She holds a Master's of Business Administration from the University of Calgary. Her journey is marked by a tenacious focus on making the complex relatable. Whether she's collaborating with technical experts to tell big engineering stories or strategizing on how marketing can drive sustainable results across continents. With a proven track record of leadership, collaboration, and exceptional project management skills, Paige has steered teams to unparalleled success. Outside of work, Paige finds meaning by volunteering with organizations like Community Soccer, TEDxYYC, Clean Energy Projects, and is an MBA alumni mentor. She partners with youth, supports women in STEM, and credits these experiences for shaping her leadership style, bringing real-world empathy and a mentor's heart into every arena she steps into. Paige, welcome to Suits and Sneakers.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I know Hatch is a really large organization. Can you give us a little bit of context into how your role fits into the bigger landscape?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're a global company, like you said, 10,000 worldwide now. I am responsible for the global portfolio for energy and climate change from an external marketing perspective. And so I have the privilege of telling our awesome project stories, turning them into stories, not just project descriptions, and really showcasing how we can change the face of energy optimization. We can improve facilities, optimize assets, all kinds of stuff, and really relate it to hopefully the broader public to showcase how we're changing. So, for example, how we're changing Calgary with the Green Line LRT.
Yeah. Oh, that's a cool project. And so you mentioned like clean energy. How do you communicate those stories and get involved so that people see themselves as part of it or can see how that impacts communities?
Yeah, I think it's all about showcasing our impacts and the benefits, right? I think everybody probably says that about products and services, but I think what's really interesting is we are changing the landscape of our world with planes and trains and bridges and power plants, wind turbines, all of that stuff. So it's about showcasing how we can bring more reliable energy to remote communities, which significantly can impact First Nation communities, Northern communities, really allowing them and giving the opportunity to grow where maybe a reliance on diesel, for example, doesn't allow that.
So thinking of the impact that you guys have had on one of those communities, I would love to hear one of the stories that you've shared.
I was actually on site last week filming our Wataynikaneyap power transmission project. And this project actually connected 17 remote, or will, sorry, connect 17 remote First Nations communities. And that was exactly it. They were completely reliant on diesel. And now some of the communities still need to be connected to the grid, but now they have kind of a whole future ahead of them of growth and empowerment. And they're also, this project is Indigenous-owned. So one of the first in Canada, and probably has changed the way First Nation communities and their voices are brought into project development.
I love hearing those stories. It just It hits the heart, and that's what we want. I think as a nation, we're all looking for those stories of like what's going to bring us together instead of continuing to focus on what's potentially pulling us apart. And that's what we see in the news instead of like this. This is a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll have a big feature coming soon.
Cool. So, your role, you see the big picture and you work with other team members around the world. What are some of the challenges with working globally and trying to collaborate as a team?
Yeah, that's definitely a big challenge. It can be fun, of course. I mean, we're dealing with different cultures, different time zones as a base case. Communication is obviously key. I personally like to consider myself, or I say that I'm an over communicator, just to make sure that nobody would feel like they're waiting or missing something. And I mean, it's all about, for me, I like to take that step back and think about what are we really trying to accomplish? Who's the target audience? And what do we want them to walk away with? This is not always what we think needs to be done. We really have to, like, I really like to put myself in the shoes of our viewer or reader, whatever it might be, even an event attendee, for example, because engineering obviously is, and project delivery can be very technical and it's different across countries. So bringing it back to those values and benefits and our impact makes it a lot easier, I think, in my mind. Although now that I just said that out loud, it doesn't sound that easy. It's
No,
yeah,
if
I
it
think
was
that
easy, everybody would do it, right?
that's
It's
right.
not that easy.
That is right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's partnering together. If we're working on a specific campaign or event, we would bring the appropriate team members together, whether they're in Canada or South America or maybe Australia. And then I like to be very clear on roles and responsibilities. And that's, again, like really communicating. If I'm the project manager, who's going to be responsible for client engagements or engaging with the organization, the venue, all that kind of stuff, and really outlining and making it clear expectations and roles.
Okay. When you say bringing everybody together, are you physically in the same space or is that generally like in a Zoom call, sort of like this? Or how do you coordinate that?
It's usually a bit of both. Myself, I'm primarily over Teams or Zoom, working remotely with my colleagues and clients. So we try to get as many people in the same room as possible if we can. And often it does involve a lot of travel. So I'll be heading to Montreal next week actually for a conference and some client meetings. And then we use all of the available tools, email. We use ClickUp as our project management platform within our global marketing team, which has
Okay.
been instrumental in helping us collaborate globally much better. We have a regional marketing communication specialist in each one of our regions. And so we collaborate and communicate constantly.
Well, and having those collaboration tools really helps. It's a little testimonial there for ClickUp right now.
Highly recommended.
Yeah. And I think most leaders are always wondering, like, what are some ways that we can get organized, help prioritize, and really get clear on roles and where things are at, right? Because with those so many moving parts and time zones, like you said, it can be a challenge. So I know also when you've worked globally, it's relationships too, right? And I know you're really good at forming those relationships. How would you give newer leaders advice on how to develop those to their advantage? More on that in a moment. If you're listening to this episode wishing you can get more out of your team alongside other purpose-driven leaders who want to be more effective, I encourage you to take a look at my program, Leading with Engagement. In it, I provide training and a practice field to gain confidence in communicating expectations that help team members stretch themselves and wow your customers. You'll gain a framework for giving meaningful feedback that motivates and inspires them to engage. Among other skills, you'll learn to delegate and track performance to free up your time to lead more strategically. Go to teammojo.ca for more information. Now, back to the episode. You're really good at forming those relationships. How would you give newer leaders advice on how to develop those to their advantage?
Yeah, I think one of the things I really believe in is I try to always be helpful. And not to say that we need to eradicate boundaries and do everything for everyone all at once. That's not at all what I'm saying. I think it's in looking for those ways where you can help. So, and back to my over communicator, if someone were to ask me a question that's completely out of my realm of what it what my job is or what I'm supposed to be doing that day, I'd still try to provide them with something that they can take forwards with. So either another person that would be better suited to answer their question or maybe some resources that can help them get further along themselves. Then it's about, for me, building those relationships. It's about checking in with those people, right? Especially when you're in a remote role like I am. I take the time actually to have a bit of a conversation. I like to tell people a little bit about myself and get to know a little bit about them in an effort to kind of, it's not work all the time, but then the next time they might need help. I like being the person that might pop into their head, or that makes me feel like maybe I'm doing the right things and making the right moves. I have been at the organization for a long time. I just celebrated 13 years in August. And so I do know a lot of the kind of moving parts and pieces of our global operation. So that for me is kind of, we show up as someone who is truly willing to help and capable of helping, then they remember that. It's honestly been like the key to my success.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, and it's human to human, right? Yes, we use technology and we care about that, and systems, but it's the humans that we work with every day that we remember and that we bond with. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't
Yeah.
hurt to wish a happy Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. People like it. It kind of lightens their day, I hope. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Just thinking of relationships and building those things. What about mentors and people who have supported you in your career development? How did you form those relationships? And we don't have to name names unless you want to, but how did those people help you?
Good question. I think I sort of formally started with my first mentor. I joined the organization as a proposal coordinator. And my first mentor was my first boss, really. And he was instrumental in teaching me about engineering in general. I knew nothing and I had a business degree and enthusiasm. That was my kind of selling point, I suppose. And I'd never done a proposal, for example. So it was great to really learn from him. And he'd been in the industry for a long time. And in building that relationship, he also kind of showcased the industry and project delivery space. Really got to see a sense of how these mega projects and some of our smaller projects too come together and starting for myself to pinpoint the benefits and the value. And then that kind of helped me craft how we wanted to tell these stories. Having that proposal background is a very targeted approach. You want to appeal to those evaluators, right? Very different from what I'm doing now, where I'm trying to appeal to a much broader audience, but for specific things. Like, right, we're not trying to sell a pair of shoes or anything like that. So very interesting. Really helped me learn engineering and being in a technical organization or a technical space. And then over the years, many women who came into the organization. I am very proud to say that our Calgary office is at least at 50%, maybe just over, actually. We're doing quite well, which is really, a point of pride, I think, for our whole organization. That's one of our pillars in our diversity and inclusion. So lots of women mentors who've come in and showed what it takes to become a leader and kind of hold your boundaries, right? So women who really showed what it's like to be a leader in this technical space and that you do deserve to be at the table in some of these important meetings and helping to showcase our projects and our people.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to hear that because I think probably most people's perception would be that in an engineering technical environment that it might be male dominated. And so it's great to hear that women are absolutely welcome and should apply and should feel included in opportunities at Hatch. So that's awesome. How did you approach taking on some new challenges, or what did you do, I guess, to prepare you for next levels up as you've been promoted?
Good question again. I think I've always been, I don't want to say fake it till you make it because I kind of don't like that phrase. I don't think, especially for women, I don't think we're faking it. We know how to do it. I think we often second guess ourselves. I mean, I do. Maybe I shouldn't speak for all of women, but I certainly do second guess myself from time to time. But I always had that push to just try. And, I think it's fortunate that I refrained from holding myself back a lot, especially in this like professional development world. There's certainly other areas where I've held myself back for other reasons. Yes, as we all do. And so, yeah, I mean, I worked for the federal government. I was doing passports and employment insurance before. And then I was dropped into this proposal coordinator role. And I thought to myself, at the very least, you know how to write a memo, you know how to write things because you have a business degree, you did some of this, right? So I really just leaned on my education and the fact that I liked writing and helping to put our best foot forward. I like to put my best foot forward in just about everything I do. And so that for me was kind of key to and then I would kind of like chip away at doing. So I started really small proposals and then I started doing some medium ones, right? And then I would shadow someone who's working on a big proposal and you just kind of build your repertoire that way. And then part of my, I think, success in being promoted into the global marketing team is because based on my interest in marketing and again, my business degree, I really felt like I grabbed onto the marketing aspects of our organization. I engaged with our global marketing team myself. I didn't wait for someone to introduce me. I asked questions and I, wanted to bring pieces of our corporate world into our Calgary world. And at the time I was working in infrastructure, and that in itself kind of led to building more relationships and getting to know more people, sorry. And then that opened up a whole different. So now it was not just proposals, it was events and conferences and buying swag, right? There was all kinds of things that it just kind of opened up a different world. And there was actually very few of us in Western Canada that were in these roles. So it was fun. It was interesting.
Well, and I think large organizations can be intimidating to sort of navigate all the departments and the layers and, different locations. And so it's interesting that you took the initiative to get to know people in different areas so that you could position yourself for that role.
Yeah, it was based on what I was interested in too, right? So it wasn't that one day I sat down and thought, well, I want to do marketing. It was sort of over time noticing how we can have success and where maybe the gaps are that I could fill. And actually, one of my mentors at Hatch said that exact thing. If you see something's not working, be part of the solution, right?
Yeah, that's huge. And I was in part of an organization at one point who their practice was more to like tap you on the shoulder if they were thinking that you were a good fit for a up level role. And so the culture sort of became that people waited, not everyone, but some people waited until those taps on the shoulder came. And what a missed opportunity, because if you know that you have the skills, why wouldn't you jump in and say, hey, I can help? Yeah.
Yeah, I think in a consultancy, people are busy all the time, right? So it can be a challenge. Even that can be intimidating itself too, right? Like, who do I ask? I don't want to, be a burden or anything like that, or maybe this is the wrong move. I think that's one of the things that I really credit Hatch and our culture for is we are a flat and connected organization. And one of our values is that we are entrepreneurs with technical souls. I maybe have a different technical soul. I'm not an engineer, but I like to think that I have some marketing technical skills, but I'm very entrepreneurial for sure. I feel that I'm very entrepreneurial.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and in the projects that you lead, you probably have to think very creatively, but I also know you're very strategic. How do you prioritize your time and prioritize what needs to be done so that you can have an impact?
Yeah, this is a big challenge, I know, for a lot of people. I think it was even a challenge for me as things changed, as roles changed, as more responsibility came with my role. Again, taking that step back and really like I make to-do lists all the time. I have one of the remarkables, so I take it with me wherever I go. And then I need to see it. So I write it down and then I think, okay, actually, I can wait until next week to do that. Or, and you just kind of like go through your list. I go through my list to really fine tune, and I do it by almost like daily, but also weekly. So I also have one of those dry erase boards that's just like a mini calendar of the week. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when it's a major initiative, I'll put those like key buckets on that for each day that I'm hoping to chip away at it or get to it. This week, for example, I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed that I needed to do a lot of things before I travel to Montreal and get prepared for my trip to Montreal. And so I just did a whole new list. These are my core things that I need to do. And then on the other side, or I had two columns on the next side, I had like things I cannot forget about, right, as well that need to come later when I have a little bit more time. So, yeah, I think if you're working on a major campaign or bringing people together, it's again, taking that step back. Who are we at Hatch? What are we trying to achieve? How can I best lead this team to success without bombarding them with a ton of information that they get overwhelmed?
Mm-hmm.
So creating a lot of lists. Again, we use a project management platform to lay out all of our content. And then as you start using these project management platforms and you have something similar coming up, I just duplicate. Like I do not start from scratch most of the time.
Mm.
So then you kind of already have your thinking outlined from whatever you did before. You roll it forwards to the next project or initiative or campaign.
Mm-hmm. So templating it. But I loved what you said about taking a step back because I think and I see this in my coaching too, a lot of leaders struggle to do that. They're just so in the weeds that they're reacting all the time. I mean, how do you manage that? Because you've got a global look on
Yeah.
things and a global team, and then you must be pulled in a lot of directions at a lot of different times of day.
Yes, absolutely. I think everyone needs to, yeah, I think taking that step back is sometimes it's 30 seconds, sometimes it's half an hour, maybe you need to step away from your desk. Um, I actually book like focus time as well for where I need to get those core priorities done or at least some progress on a few things. And then I like to, if I'm launching something or someone is asking me for, maybe it'll take 5 minutes. Those add up though, right? And then you are getting all of a sudden your focus time or whatever you were supposed to be doing that day is you're looking at like 3 p.m. and thinking, what have I done today? It happens. It's going to happen. I've embraced it. And then I also put in measures to book my time where I can buckle down and get things done. One of the like little tricks I like to do too, though, is when someone brings something to me, I might open up that email and jot out like my first like whatever thoughts, or I actually chat with myself on Teams a lot. So
Oh.
if I need to put forwards a pitch, I just did this the other day. This is for advertorials or advertising. And I was asked to put together a pitch to senior leadership because there is a cost that's associated with it. I just had, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes between my next meeting. And I just typed out to myself in my chat, like, here's, our budget or whatever alignment it is or estimate it is, budget, what we are trying to achieve, how we could do it, and then an idea of how to kind of structure that for myself. So then, because then instantly I'm going to forget because I'll be on the next meeting or call or whatever it is. So having those little tweaks and those messages helps root me back into, okay, this is what I'm doing now.
I love that. Just having a space where you can dump ideas and just sending a Teams message to yourself is so simple and brilliant.
Thanks.
Yeah. I also see you very visible on social media and whatnot in events that are community based, like university stuff, like giving back as far as alumni events and mentoring. Do you mentor people either in marketing or other university students?
Yeah, I spent some time with WISE, Women in Science and Engineering, volunteering and mentoring engineering students at the University of Calgary. And that actually led to me learning about the MBA and doing the accelerated MBA at the U of C. So I spent a couple years doing that. And then when I was doing my MBA, I joined the BMO mentorship program with Haskayne. So I was a mentee, and that was really helpful in balancing work and life and school. And, you're working full time, you're in school full time. My mentor really actually is probably one of the first ones to say, like, take that step back. You need to like slow down to go fast, which I think people have said that phrase a lot lately. It's so important to slow down and to go fast, because if you don't, you won't get anything done, or a lot of stuff will start to, at least for me, a lot of stuff will start to fall off the rails. And when you're working and going to school, it's a challenge. So that, for me, having that person kind of, he really got through to me to say that this is your experience, your MBA, do it your way, and to slow down. It was really helpful. And so I really wanted to give back to that community. And so I've probably been with that program for almost 10 years now. I just got matched to my mentor the other day. So that's pretty exciting. And then I put in there that it can be anyone, right? It is Haskayne, so they are primarily business students, but quite a few of them have actually had an engineering background
Hmm.
or have touched engineering in some way, or are maybe looking to do so. So sometimes they're undergrads, sometimes they are MBA students. For the most part, they're MBA students, I would say. And yeah, being a mentor is really, it's valuable. I think I like to be the voice of reason, and I was helped when I was doing my MBA and really wanted to give back to other students. And I have had the benefit of having mostly women as my mentees, which has been wonderful over the last couple of years. My mentee a couple of years ago was a marketing professional, which was very, like, we're fast friends now, right? Like we hang out, we go for coffee, go for lunch all the time. She's wonderful. It was kind of kindred spirits in that. So you never know who you're going to meet. So it's a really good program and super helpful.
That's cool. What do you gain by being a mentor?
For me, it's not only to provide advice, because sometimes people don't always want advice. I know it's best to ask if people want advice. It's also to learn for me, it's to learn from the student. It's equally learning for me as much as providing advice. I like to even share some of my challenges that I'm working through and get the advice of my mentee. I do that with my colleagues at work as well. I think I say it a lot of the time, like, tell me if I'm wrong, or what do you think of this, to get their opinion, especially with marketing and trends. It is hard to keep ahead of all the trends. And so some of the students, I get some of my ideas from them, or the conversations that we have will spark an idea in how we could, for a different audience or for a particular audience, tailor some of our content. So it's helpful, and usually they're pretty fun, entertaining conversations. So it's nice to have a little levity instead of business all the time.
Absolutely. Where do you find inspiration in your leadership?
I get inspiration from everywhere, even on the soccer pitch with my team, right? Like, I consider myself a leader on the field, or I certainly try to be. And I actually have hacked my social media. I don't know if that's the right term, but I consciously sat down and said, if I'm going to waste time scrolling, waste time. If I'm going to spend time on social media, maybe I could have a bit of work inspiration, ideas, and also fun. So there's a lot of cooking videos on there for sure. But I went through and I purposefully picked some influencers and different organizations that I wanted to constantly be reminded of things. So I use it as a tool to learn constantly at the same time. And I think a lot of people probably do that, or hopefully they do.
Mm-hmm.
So I need those constant reminders. And as you see some of the different trends and things that people are posting about or talking about, I use that to kind of spark some of my inspiration in our work, because it's not always technical information that we need to distill. It's also just a simple beneficial points of how does energy change in our world? How are we working towards net zero and decarbonization, all of that stuff. I'm not a technical person. Like I said, I'm not an engineer. I have an electricity bill just like everybody else. So that's where I find my inspiration kind of everyday life with people I chat with and on social media. And yeah.
Yeah. You said you follow a few influencers and things like that. Who do you watch?
So some of the things I follow are actually Dr. Becky. She's a parenting specialist. I
Mm.
use that for ideas on how to engage with different demographics and how to be a better communicator. And then I follow a couple feel good things where it's a reminder of, just quotes and, helpful instructions. I, a couple years ago, went through some burnout. So upholding your boundaries and stuff and having those constant reminders on social media, even if you see one or two per day, is another like re-up of, yes, doing the right things. It's important to take a step back and manage your time, put your spin on things, that kind of stuff.
So, what advice would you give to young Paige before you started your leadership journey?
I think it's always helpful to be reminded that you do have the skills. Whether you have all the skills doesn't necessarily matter, as long as you're willing to put that best foot forward. I think I would advise her to spend a little less time agonizing over whether you can do this or even whether you want to do it. Just try, put your best foot forward. That's all you can do, and letting that kind of settle over, like that is all I can do, and kind of believe in that sentiment a little bit more.
That's nice. I like that. We all need to believe in ourselves. So, that's great advice. If we think of the look forward, what are you excited about for the remainder of 2025 and into 2026?
Well, 2025 has gone by so fast. It's crazy. It's been good. I actually did a lot of travel this year, and I have some more travel coming up. I will finally get to see Eastern Canada, which is really exciting. So I'll be going to St. John's. I'll be going to Montreal and then St. John's, which is really exciting. And we're going to be I'm working on this campaign right now. I'm going to be templating that actually, or I hope to template that for my colleagues in the global marketing team to assist in when we're entering a new region or even province, state, an excellent way to start that. A lot of the planning and the testing has been done. So you can kind of launch almost right away, really quickly. So that's something I'm looking forward to putting together. Again, helping my colleagues kind of put their best foot forward. 2026, I think it's a little unknown. I've kind of had my head down actually over the last couple of weeks. So I need to write my 2026 marketing plans and start digging into what angle we want to take for energy and climate change next year.
Amazing. I'm so inspired by the work that you're doing and the work that Hatch does as well. Like it's really such a positive direction, and everything that you're doing with Indigenous communities is really amazing as well. So, yeah. So any final advice for sort of new leaders out there who are looking to establish themselves and advance their career?
I think never stop learning. Figure out how you absorb information. Videos are great. I think LinkedIn has like those nano tips. I did a couple of those not too long ago. amazing, especially for a millennial. I was like, oh, I'm absorbing all of this right away. And yeah, constantly learn. And if you want, I think, in my opinion, to have success, if you show up as someone who wants to help, it makes all the difference. And people really appreciate and remember that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that advice and for everything that you shared today. I wish you all the success going forward. So thanks for being here, Paige.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, Carrie.
We're glad you joined us for Suits and Sneakers. If you want to be an expert guest, look for the link in the show notes. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to be notified of future episodes.